He's done it again, folks. Not even a day after I said, all right, probably no more Brandon Aiyuk talk. This is the second time I've done it. Second time I'm like, all right, probably no more Brandon Aiyuk stuff. It appears that ship has somewhat sailed. Brandon Aiyuk says, alas, not old friend, and makes me talk about him again. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Black and Gold Breakdown on a Friday evening. Thank you so much for watching, however you're doing it, wherever you're doing it. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, please do all that good YouTube stuff and like the video, subscribe, leave a comment if you'd like. If you want to support me in additional ways and you want to be part of the show, if you want to leave super chats, that's very much accepted and appreciated. So appreciate everybody for being here as we talk more Pittsburgh Steelers coming to near the end of June. In a few weeks, be in training camp. But of course, the news of the day, Brandon Aiyuk, he put on his IG Live story that he was going to the 49ers facility, and everybody's like, oh, okay, that's probably pretty indicative of they probably have a deal. And so once he posted that, I'm sure everybody, a lot of other people were like, all right, well, the ship has finally sailed. It appears that he's staying with the 49ers. And then he goes on the pivot with former Steeler Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, and all but confirms that they're still pretty far away from a deal. And now, after the interview, we're sitting here and saying, okay, this thing's still very much alive because Ryan Clark was kind of egging him on a little bit, trying to see if the Pittsburgh Steelers were a real possibility. And he asked him, if you had to guess what uniform are you going to be playing in 2024? And he said, if I had to guess, probably a Niners uniform. But if it's not a Niners uniform, probably a Commanders uniform or a Steelers uniform. And of course, Steelers fans saw that and said, inject that in our veins. This thing is still very much alive. And now we're going to keep talking about this thing because Brandon Aiyuk keeps giving me reasons to talk about it. Now, there's not going to be too much new stuff said. I will say this, though. He all but confirmed that if the 49ers had acted earlier and paid him before all these other guys got paid, then the price might not be as high. But, after Amon-Ra St. Brown gets paid, after A.J. Brown gets extended, after Devontae Smith gets paid, Jalen Waddle gets paid, obviously Justin Jefferson, then the price goes up. And so the 49ers more or less kind of shot themselves in the foot by not getting this thing done. They were reportedly offered him around $26 million a year, to which he said no. Now, it's reported that he wants around $30 million a year, but that number could be a little bit smaller had they done it sooner, which is the overall takeaway that I had from watching that part of the interview. And again, when you have a guy like Brandon Aiyuk who, A, there's a lot of mouths to feed in that 49ers offense. B, they throw the ball not very much. He was 52nd in routes run last year, but was still top 10 in receiving yards. That's a guy who makes the absolute most of when he is on the field and trying to earn targets. Now, look, I'm not telling you guys anything that you don't already know. He's a fantastic receiver, an absolute top 10 receiver in the NFL. All-pro receiver. Terrific. And the Steelers should do everything in their power to get him. And throughout this entire process, I've been pretty adamant that, hey, they didn't get him during the draft. I don't think the 49ers are going to trade him. Now, I'm still leaning toward that way, but finally hearing him break his silence on all of this. I know there's been, TikToks and whatnot of him like FaceTiming Jaden Daniels and whatnot. But this is the first time he's really come out in any sort of public forum and talked about it. And the fact that he name drops the Steelers while doing so, I'm much more confident in the possibility of a trade happening now than I was yesterday. So, again, I would still lean towards, and again, Aiyuk himself said, if I had to guess, I'm probably spending this year in a Niners uniform. But if I'm not, here are two other teams that I would probably be playing for. So I'm much more confident in the possibility of a trade taking place today than I was yesterday. Doesn't mean that I'm, fully 100% confident in happening. Again, I would love for it to happen. But again, certainly more confident in the possibility of it after today's appearance from Brandon Aiyuk on the pivot. We got some folks in the chat, not even 24 hours later, but the question has to be asked now. Is Brandon Aiyuk a frequent viewer of this program? I'm starting to think he is, because this is now twice where I've said, all right, probably just going to stop talking about Brandon Aiyuk because it seems like this thing is pretty much over and done with. I don't see it taking place for Pittsburgh, at least because of all the surrounding circumstances. And then both times, Brandon Aiyuk goes out of his way to make us talk about him. So maybe he is. Hell, for all we know, Omar's burner is just Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe that's just actually Brandon Aiyuk's burner. Hi, Tom. Thanks for watching. Don't forget driving to the facility in a Pittsburgh Pirates hat. Bro, I never understood, I understand it's late June. That is a reach. And I understand why some people might be like, oh, he's wearing a Pirates hat. This might be, a little Easter egg. Probably not. Dudes just wear hats. I have plenty of hats of I have plenty of just merch of teams I don't like, but I, dig the logo. I dig the look of it. I'm a Steelers fan. I just ordered a Dan Marino vintage shirt. I ordered a Randall Cunningham shirt, and I have a Rams Titans Super Bowl shirt. Some of the stuff just looks good. And the Pirates have easily a top 5 hat in baseball. It's so simple, and their logo's great. Goes with everything. And it's the hot girl summer of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hot girls like Pittsburgh Pirates. Clip that. I say that as if I have a producer. Somebody clip it. Hot girls like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Spread the word. So yeah, I didn't look too much into that. I know a lot of people, and again, it's June 28th, so I understand people trying to find something to talk about. That one was Now, had he been pulling up to the facility and gotten traded to Pittsburgh, then sure. But if I had to put percentages on this right now, yesterday I would have said, okay, 95% he's staying in San Francisco. Today, I'd probably be between 75 and 80. Still pretty confident that he's staying there, but, hearing him talk about everything from his perspective, his point of view, wanting to be valued, understandable. So that's where I stand right now on it. Again, would love nothing more than to have Brandon Aiyuk become a Pittsburgh Steeler. For a multitude of reasons that I've discussed on here. A, it obviously makes you much better offensively for this season. It helps you in the short term and the long term. In the short term, it makes your offense better, helps out your new quarterbacks. In the long term, helps you figure out right away, okay, are Russell Wilson or Justin Fields the future of this team at quarterback? And if they're not, okay, well, then we know after 2024, and then we'll go out and get a new guy. And again, I floated the possibility of if Dak Prescott and Brandon Aiyuk are both in Pittsburgh in 2025. Hell, with the guys that they already have, that's a team that can win a Super Bowl. What's the percentage chance they add any receiver, in your opinion, before the season, either via trade or free? 100%. They are going to add somebody else. I would put that at a strong 100. Just because, like, we know that they've asked around the NFL about a lot of guys, at least 6 teams. And we know 3 of them: San Francisco, Denver, Seattle. The other ones up for debate. But reportedly, they've asked at least 6 teams. So the fact that they're asking this much, they're going to bring in somebody, whether it's a ginormous name or not. They're going to bring in somebody else. So I would put a strong 100%. If it's not Aiyuk, which again, I still probably don't think it's going to be, it'll be one of the names that we've already talked about. Or if it's not, one of the, Burks, Mechie, Michael Thomas, it'll be someone out of left field. Like a Chris Godwin, someone of that caliber. I don't think that, or, hell, even if they do bring in someone like a Mechie or a Burks, maybe during the season they make a trade. For a guy like Chris Godwin could be an in-season trade guy. Devontae Adams could be one of those guys. There's several options that they could turn to in that case. So, do you think Arthur Smith will continue his style of football from his previous teams, or will he add new wrinkle? Art talked about this after the draft. Nick Farbaugh had asked him about like gap-based runs because the Steelers were really good at gap runs last year, and they have a bunch of guys that are really good at blocking in space. And Art said, well, we're going to have our core philosophy, and Art's core philosophy when it comes to the run game is outside zone. But he also said, you want to play to the strength of the guys that you have. So it's important to not go stale offensively, and it's important to always evolve and add things. So yeah, there's going to be different stuff, but again, they're going to have their core philosophy of what they do. But unlike previous regimes, they're not going to stick to a very stale, very vanilla core offense that is incredibly predictable. And again, credit to Arthur Smith. There's one thing that you can say about his offense is that it's not predictable. It's more modern. And when he was the OC in Tennessee, the offense was very, very, very good. So I think that we will see a very good style of offense. We're going to see a good mixture of different things, both in the run and pass game. But in the pass game, we're going to see what the Steelers haven't done a ton of over the past few years. They're going to let it fly, no matter who the quarterback is, because both Russ and Justin Fields can chuck it. So I think that will be, when you look at Arthur Smith, again, he'll have his core philosophy, but won't be afraid to add things, especially if it helps out or leans into the strengths of especially the new offensive lineman. So, sorry. Is there any position that the Steelers should add before the season? And then besides wide receiver? That's a good question. If they wanted to add like another presence on the defensive line, I think those types of moves will come like after, like during preseason, after preseason. Like there's going to be, as there is every year, there's going to be, a good handful of surprise cuts. And if, you get a surprise guy in the defensive line that can make you better, then sure, you go get him. Maybe they do the Justin Simmons deal. That could be a move that could still happen. But as of right now, I talked about it yesterday. Defensively, not really any holes for this season. But if you wanted to add somebody else on the defensive line, that's probably the one spot that you could say, yeah, they could probably add another body there. So I think that would be the one to pay attention to. Yeah, there's not anything else coming to mind. Receiver's their biggest need, obviously, but I could see somebody else being brought in on the defensive line. Maybe another edge rusher. I see Marcus Golden to be brought back. I'd be totally cool bringing back Marcus Golden. That would make perfect sense. He was really good in his role last year. Totally fine with that. I was thinking about it earlier. I'd be totally cool if they brought Quan Alexander back. I know that he's dealing with the injury, and you'd have to see how far along he is and when he'd be ready. But even if early October, he's still a free agent and he's ready to go, yeah, bring him back. If anything, they learned last year is that you can't have enough depth. So God forbid something happens to Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, or Landon Roberts. At least you have somebody who knows the system. You can bring in, you can, depend on, and will play solid football for you. So that's a move. Yeah, Marcus Golden would be good. Again, when Quan Alexander's healthy, then cool. If that would be a move that they'd want to make, I'd be all for it. So moves like that. But yeah, like I said, any sort of other moves I think would happen like after the big cuts are made at the tail end of the preseason and ahead of week 1. Similar to what they've done like last year with Desmond King, right? Where he was somewhat of a surprise cut. Now, obviously, the Steelers didn't end up doing anything with him for whatever reason. And then he went back to Houston and was a really solid player for them. So, yeah, the Texans cut Desmond King. The Steelers pick him up right away, which is a good pickup. Unfortunately, they didn't do anything with him. They cut him, and then he goes back to Houston. But situations similar to that, where even if you feel good at the positions, the players that you have at a certain position, if a big name guy becomes available, you're like, okay, yeah, if he can make us better, then sure. So, and again, the Justin Simmons thing, we'll see. He's still unsigned. I'd have to bring up the list of free agents just to see who's all available, just to kind of see if they would be a good fit. But yeah, never against bringing in good players. Berg News. What's up, Jared? How much stock do you put into Aiyuk listing? This is a team he could play for the season. Real interest, or just saying? I mean, I think the interest is real. I don't think you would say it if the interest wasn't real. And when it comes to, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but yesterday I would have said, okay, probably 95% chance he's staying in San Francisco. Now I'm still pretty confident that he is. And even he was like, yeah, if I had to guess, probably going to be San Francisco this year. But if not, Commanders or Steelers. I'd still say it's like 75 to 80% that'll be in San Francisco. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Clark even like egged him on a little bit. He's hyping up, hey, new offensive coordinator, quarterbacks, George Pickens. And Brandon Aiyuk was, hyping up George Pickens. So yeah, I mean, the interest is definitely I don't think he would say that if the interest wasn't real. There would be no reason to. If you had to stop the Steelers offense, what would be your focus or strategy based on the current offensive roster? That's a good question. All right, tell you what, I forgot to plug in my computer. So how about this? I'm going to put on give me 30 seconds. I'm going to put on the intro, and I'll be back when the intro is done. And then I will answer that question because it is a very good question. So let me go grab my computer charger, plug in my computer, and when I get back, I will answer that question. So stick around. I'm just going to turn on the countdown. I'll be right back. Perfect time. Okay, so that was exciting. Apparently, it wasn't perfect timing, actually. So, don't worry, I'm here. Again, on the fly journalism, guys. This is what happens when news happens. You just gotta do this right away. So to answer this question, if you had to stop the Steelers' offense, what would you focus your strategy? My strategy would be keying on the run on early downs. So we know that the Steelers are going to be a team, as we get back onto the computer side of things. Again, this is just tremendous on the fly type of stuff. Yeah, I know I've been really off my game the past few days, guys. It's the off season for me too. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna enter, and then we're gonna close this. And we're back. Okay. Goodness gracious. Running around. Now I'm hot. Okay. So to answer this question, if you had to stop the Steelers offense, what would be your focus or strategy based on the current offensive roster? Yeah. Stop the run on early downs. Because what the Steelers are going to try to do, they're going to hammer you early and often, try to get into second and medium, second and shorts to set up the play action deep ball pass game. So if you can get them in second and long where running the ball wouldn't be ideal, instead of, third and mediums, third and long where they're going to pass, then that, makes them a little bit more predictable in those circumstances. Now, it's going to be a lot less predictable than it was with Matt Canada, but no offense is perfect. And while Arthur Smith is going to be a tremendous upgrade from Matt Canada, there's still going to be things that you can do to really throw wrinkles and kinks into the offense. And I think the biggest thing that you could do as a defense is consistently put the Steelers in second and third and mediums and longs. Because if they can get in second and shorts and keep you on your toes, be like, okay, they're going to come out in a heavy set, very clearly going to show run, and you have to respect the run in that situation. And if you load the box to stop the run and have one-on-one coverage on the outside with George Pickens, they're going to try to exploit that. And more often, they are going to have points of the season where, Pickens is going to have a lot of big catches downfield because they are going to be able to exploit it because Pickens is, top 30 receiver in the NFL and one of the best at making plays downfield. So they're going to be able to do those types of things. But that would be my biggest thing is take away the run on early downs and do your very best to consistently put them in situations where they have to, you can predict that they're going to throw the ball. If it's 3rd and 9, they're not going to run. And if they do, that's dumb. So if you can put them in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, where they're going to pass, you can come out in more nickel and dime sets. That would be more ideal than, 3rd and 3, where they can still run the ball. And you got to come out in heavier sets. And if they wanted to get risky and try to beat you, with, an intermediate inbreaker over the middle, behind your linebackers, or just say, to hell with it, we're going to cork one deep, then they can. So, yeah, stop the run on early downs and consistently put them in long yardage situations would be how I would attack them. Even confident Fields Wilson does struggle that they would get an opportunity elsewhere, since I bet there's no system that would be more quarterback friendly than. If Wilson struggles, I think that's it. There's not going to be a team that's going to be lining up to make him their starter next year if he doesn't play well in Pittsburgh. If Fields struggles, he's still a young guy. I don't think he's going to get calls to start, but I think he'll have a very Marcus Mariota type career then, where he'll bounce around as a backup. And look, maybe he'll get another opportunity to start just because, if you look at the athleticism alone, if you want him to be a bridge type quarterback for a guy, then he'll get an opportunity like that. But I think that this is both of their last opportunities to prove that they're, franchise caliber quarterbacks. But it is different because, again, Wilson is near the end of his career. And if he struggles in Pittsburgh, then what team's going to want to pick up a 36-year-old quarterback that hasn't played well in 3 years? I don't see a lot of people lining up to do that. And he's not going to be a backup. Like, some guys just aren't going to be backups, right? Like, Phillip Rivers was never going to be a backup. Ben was never going to be a backup. Like, when you're a first ballot Hall of Fame guy, not going to be a backup. Now, I don't know if Russell Wilson is quite a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, certain guys aren't going to be backups. And if he struggles, then he made a lot of money in his career. He's going to make a lot of money next year regardless. He's going to be making at least $40 million next year. Just chill. Call it a career. You know, leave the memories alone, that type of thing. I appreciate you guys sticking through because I know the past 2 days, well, yesterday, not my fault. It was like one of those situations where like my computer just froze. Happens once like every 2 months, and I get really angry about it. This time, yeah, I just forgot to plug in my computer, so it happens. But again, more or less the off season for me too. Oh my goodness, bro. Thank you so much. That was very kind of you. I appreciate you. And again, if you want to leave a super chat, by no means are you required to, but it does make my little heart grow 3 sizes too big. So thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Those who want Aiyuk should be thankful for Ryan Clark. He's doing everything he can to show Aiyuk how good of a destination the Steelers are. Bro, he's basically recruiting at this point. He wasn't even being... He wasn't even trying to hide it. He was literally like, from your mouth to God's ears, like literally just pitching him like, dude, tell him to trade you to Pittsburgh. I absolutely agree. 100%. And I'll say this. I'm not here to, well, I guess I kind of am. For all the faults at the worldwide leader in sports, Ryan Clark is one of the better ones that they have. There's a lot of really smart football people there. Don't get me wrong. Like the NFL Live crew is top notch. Dan's great. Ryan's great. Mina's great. Marcus Spears is good. And that is, Ryan Clark is one of the very best that they have over there. So for all their faults, keeping Ryan Clark was a very smart decision by ESPN. Relax. What do I have to relax about? We will get the deal done. I mean, that is supreme confidence in something that is absolutely not set in stone, my friend. But again, I would like for it to happen. I just don't think it's gonna. I think it's more likely today than it was yesterday. Don't think it's gonna happen, though. They're gonna get somebody. 100% they will get somebody. I'm just not 100% confident it's Aiyuk. I did say I'd pull up the free agency list, though, so I can do that real quick just to see what possible ones that the Steelers could look to bringing in, because I know somebody had asked about I think it was Omar's Burner who asked about other free agents. So I'll pull that up. Another question came in. So while that loads, what's your ideal dime package personnel like for this year? I tell you what, man. If they want to give Peyton Wilson some look at dime backer, I'm cool with it. They were already doing that in OTAs. So already they're trying to tinker and see, like, okay, what can he do if we were to, put him in this spot? So if Peyton Wilson is good for it, put him a dime backer. I think initially it'll be Patrick Queen at that spot, and that's fine. It's more than fine. Patrick Queen's obviously great. But eventually, if they want Peyton Wilson to be the dime backer, cool. I'd be cool with it. All right, so hold on. Let me get the... Yeah. And Queen's going to be wearing the green dot this year. Pretty sure Landon wore it last year. But Terrell Austin, when he talked to us the second to last day of minicamp, he confirmed that, or no, I guess was it the last day? No, it was second to last. I was there on the last day, or second to last day. So He confirmed to us that Patrick Queen's going to be wearing the green dot. So keep that in mind. So let me look at some available guys. David Bakhtiari is a free agent still. Not that the Steelers need a lineman. I'm just thinking out loud. Xavier Howard was one that people talked about. I think that right now Dante Jackson's better than Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard was bad last year. I do wonder if there would be any interest in Jamal Adams. Not as like a safety, but very much as just a box linebacker safety type of hybrid type player. Run support safety. I wouldn't hate that for cheap money. I'd prefer Justin Simmons just to have, a safety duo of Minka and Justin Simmons. Have Deshaun Elliott be the third guy. That would mean that Casey would probably be cut, but okay. Or hell, you can even trade Casey more than likely. Casey's good enough where you could trade him for, draft capital. Won't be anything huge, but better to get something for him. So that's something that I would be up for. J.C. Jackson is still a free agent. Again, there's more cornerback names. Hunter Renfrow would have been cool. And still would be, honestly. But they already have too many slot receivers. Like, you drafted Roman Wilson, that's your slot receiver. Calvin Austin is a slot receiver. Scotty Miller is a slot receiver. Like, unfortunately, they already have too many where he just wouldn't make sense. Justin Simmons obviously would be good. Carl Lawson, that's a veteran guy that if you wanted to bring in Carl Lawson, he's not 30 yet. He's only 28 right now. So, that's another veteran defensive lineman that you could bring in. I think that would be cool. Quandre Diggs would be interesting. Now, he is 31, but at the same time, Justin Simmons is how old? He's almost 31. So that could be a name to keep an eye on with Quandre Diggs. Adoree Jackson's still a free agent. Eddie Jackson's still a free agent. Unique Ngakoue is still a free agent. I think that would be a fine addition. If you want to bring in Unique Ngakoue, that would be fine. There's a bunch of defensive line guys, defensive end type of guys that you can bring in. So I would be cool with that. Obviously, Michael Thomas is still available. Russell Gage. I saw, who was it? Yeah. No. I agree. Russell Gage, I forgot he was even still in the league. Like, Russell Gage isn't going to be the quality of guy that you need. Aiyuk won't stop giving us content to talk about. Hey, I'll take it. I've still got 3 weeks till camp. You can keep talking about him and get me through to training camp. That would be spectacular. That would be just lovely. Speaking of which, I need to get my credentials for camp. Pittsburgh not trading for a top wide receiver yet is more so about the other organizations not being willing to trade them rather than Pittsburgh not willing to give us. Yeah, absolutely. No, the Steelers, I said this before, I think that Pittsburgh, their plan was, okay, we're going to sign Mike Williams. He's going to come into our building. We're not going to let him leave. And then their plan was George Pickens and Mike Williams as the two boundary guys, still draft a guy. Even Roman Wilson fell to them. They didn't have to do anything. So hypothetically, Roman Wilson could still be the slot guy. Calvin Austin could be the 4. And if you want somebody like Van Jefferson to come in as a depth guy who can block, okay, that's, you can do worse. Unfortunately for them, Mike Williams went to the Jets first, and they gave him a lot of money. He didn't leave. So once that happened, I think they were like, crap. We didn't expect that. And then they, I assume, hit the phones, and trade market just had somewhat dried up because the Browns had already traded for Jerry Jeudy. So there goes that. They traded Deontay, obviously. So, and again, they've called around to teams. I would assume they were probably one of the teams to call Buffalo about Stephon Diggs, which is if I had to guess. called about Cortland Sutton. Doesn't look like it looks like that ship sailed too. Apparently called Seattle, probably about DK Metcalf. Doesn't look like that'll happen. Mike McDonald's talked about him a good bit and really hyped him up, so I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, it just so happened that like Mike Williams signed with the Jets, and I think that was kind of their plan. Was okay, George Pickens, Mike Williams, then we'll draft a guy. Those are our top 3 receivers, and then Mike Williams signed with the Jets. So it's not for lack of them trying. They're certainly trying. Just got to find a team that's willing to play ball. I'm gonna adjust this helmet real quick. How does this look better like that? Can I go like that? Yeah, sorry, I'm very, very anal about how things look on screen. Jeremy, did you say no more Aiyuk so a big development happens? Apparently. Should I just say that after every show? Like, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. No more Brandon Aiyuk. And then hope that eventually something does happen. Called about Jefferson and Higgins, but pretty sure they got hung up. Could they have called about both of them? Maybe. But I think even they're like, yeah, they're not getting traded. Or in Higgins' case, they know that the Bengals wouldn't trade them to Pittsburgh or trade him to Pittsburgh. With Jefferson, that was always a pipe dream that I don't know why people ever actually got their hopes up about that. It's goofy. He was never leaving Minnesota. I'll keep going down the list of free agents, though. Fletcher Cox retired, did he not? He's listed as a free agent, but I'm pretty sure he retired. Tracy Walker, that would actually be a good addition. I would like that. The Lions surprisingly cut him. I think he's a guy that's dealt with some injuries. But if you sign him to a 1-year cheap deal, I think that could be fine. Charles Harris, another defensive end. There's plenty of defensive, like Yannick Ngakoue, Carl Lawson, Charles Harris. If they wanted to add one more veteran defensive lineman, specifically at defensive end rather than nose tackle, they could absolutely do that. And I would be fine with any of those 3 I just named. Jerry Hughes is almost 36 though. Jamal Agnew's still a free agent. Jamal Agnew's weird because he's like if you bought Deebo Samuel at Aldi. Like he's kind of a running back, kind of a receiver, right? It's kind of just like a gadget guy. Who else is out there? That's probably like the biggest of names that you're going to find. No other like big ones that I'm seeing. K1 Williams, but again, he's almost 33 and they brought in Cam Sutton, so you don't need a nickel guy. Matt Filer's a free agent. I didn't know that. Unless he called it a career and I didn't see it. I always liked Matt Filer. So yeah, that's probably the extent of all the like bigger name ones. Cam Akers is a free agent. Honestly, that would be one I wouldn't hate. You could probably get Cam Akers for pretty cheap. Do we want to play the hypothetical game real quick? I'll play the hypothetical game real quick. If they wanted to trade Najee ahead of Cam and just make Jalen the de facto 1 and sign a guy like Cam Akers, I'm cool with it. Wouldn't hate it. I don't think they're going to do that. I'm, again, hypothetical. What other running backs are available? Now, I think there's going to be other running back names that would become available too. I saw that someone like a Michael Carter could become available. He's in Arizona right now. It could be maybe a surprise cut. Something like that. All right. Cam Akers, Matt Breida, Kareem Hunt, Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon, Josh Kelly would be an okay one. Yeah, there's not too many free agent running backs that are really Cam Akers is probably the bigger one. Damian Harris. Honestly, though, man, if you wanted to move Najee and see if you could get something for him and like sign Damian Harris, Kareem Hunt, or Cam Akers, I wouldn't hate it. Just my opinion, though. So I think that Jalen is the better back. So the Bengals were looking to add to their running back room, but that would be a historic deal involving Najee and something for Higgins. Buddy, 0% chance that happens. Something like that I just don't see. Definitely don't see. And the Bengals, I mean, they already have Zach Moss and Chase Brown. They don't need, like, that's going to be their 1-2 punch at running back. If they sign anybody, it'll be for depth in case one of those guys get hurt. So I don't know. What team needs a running back right now? We'll play that game. Cowboys do. Oh, somebody said that was a hypothetical thing, right? Like a few months ago? Saying, oh, they should trade him to Dallas. Again, Najee's not going to get traded. I would be very surprised if he got traded, I should say. Again, just playing the hypothetical game because it's June 28th. Yeah. Dallas needs a running back. They sure do. But again, Dallas has done nothing this year, man. Nothing this offseason. They signed Ezekiel Elliott and Kenneth Murray. Those were their 2 moves. Great job. Najee for CD. If Omar Khan pulled off something that involved getting CD Lamb in exchange for Najee Harris and some form of draft capital, I would drive down to the facility right now and start building the statue myself. Yeah, the Cowboys are weird. I think that this is going to be the last year of them being relevant for a while. I think at least one of their big 3 guys are leaving. I think it's going to be Dak. So, and then they're going to have to start looking for another quarterback. Whoever that may be. Maybe it'll be in the draft. Maybe it'll be, through free agency. But yeah, I think that I've talked about it on here a lot. I think that this is the last year of both Dak and Mike McCarthy. And yeah, they're going to be in a state of rebuild. So if CD goes into next year, it's like, well, A, they need to sign him. So I'm pretty sure he's set to be a free agent, like just a free agent next year. Because I don't think that he signed anything in terms of a 5th year. Let me look at his contract real quick. I don't think he signed any sort of 5th year option, right? No, I'm just curious. He is, he's set to be a free agent. And now again, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this year is his 5th year club option. So he's set to be a free agent next year. They haven't signed him. So that would be something to pay attention to. Would your source know about any other updates for receivers other than Sutton? They gave me something about like when the Jalen Waddle deal would get done, and then it got done like the next morning. But no, none of the other ones that we've talked about now. Yeah, in terms of the Sutton thing, I would probably not going to happen. I would say it's pretty close to certain that that's not going to happen. Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. And again, things could change, but from what I was told, it's highly unlikely that he'll be playing anywhere other than Denver. So, I mean, again, things can change, of course. but as of right now, doesn't seem likely. And again, so be it. Now, I've been banging the Chris Godwin drum. I think that's just a move that makes sense for all involved. The Buccaneers have like 5 receivers on their roster right now that could be, legit rotational guys. Godwin's going to be a free agent next year. Probably not going to get re-signed by the Buccaneers because, again, they drafted Trey Palmer. They just drafted Jalen McMillan, have Mike Evans. So I think that should be something that the Buccaneers should be even thinking about right now. Just because, okay, if you're not going to bring back Chris Godwin next year, then why not try to get something for him? And if you're the Steelers, I mean, that's a guy who just caught over 80 balls for 1,000 yards, more than any of the receivers that they have on the roster did last year. Yeah, makes perfect sense. He would be a perfect, 1A or 1B, however you'd want to rank him in Pickens. But that's a dude who could be your, underneath number 1 X-type receiver while Pickens did, what Pickens does. So I would be all in favor of that move. And again, I don't know anything about that being a real thing. That's just me looking at what the Buccaneers have, looking at what the Steelers don't, and it makes sense. And if it does end up coming to fruition, we'll go back and I'll take a victory lap. So if you have any other questions, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I'm kind of hoping they don't do a big splash so the legend of Don Looney lives on. Don Looney. Why do I know that name? I'll Google it. I feel it's a name I should know, right? What did Don Looney do? 8th round, 1940 draft. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I'll read about it later. Wikipedia will save me some time. But I appreciate you guys tuning in and staying through the technical difficulties. Yeah, the last 2 nights have not been my best. So my apologies for that. 1941, the last time the Steelers brought in a receiver and he led them in receiving yards. That's tremendous. Every time, X, every time. Every time I say no more Aiyuk talk, he says, like hell. I'm telling you, one of you or Brandon Aiyuk just messing with me. Which is fine. We'll be totally fine with that. And again, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, would love if you did. Especially like once we're in season, training camp. I'm going to be at a good majority of training camp days. So you'll get my thoughts and reports on what went down every day at camp that I'm there. And then once we're in season, we'll figure out a schedule of what to do. Probably be like 3 days a week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Have a fun guest in the works for the pump fake next week. Very fun linebacker. I'll just give you that hint. We're just hammering out the details right now. And then, as I teased yesterday, working to get a former Steeler on right now and talks with him. Again, just got to hammer out days and whatnot. So those will all be coming within the next, I'd say, week or so. So pump fake and black and gold breakdown. And again, if you want more NFL content, me and JP Acosta previewed the AFC South. So go and watch that. That is on the channel, or you can listen to it wherever you get your podcast. That is the Pump Fake with Jarrett Bailey. So that would be lovely. Is it Modes? No, it's not a Steeler. Not a Steeler. I'll say that. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know who it is. I believe the quote was Brandon Aiyuk then said, "Hold my beer." He sure did. He sure did. It's AB. It's not AB. I can tell you that. That would be something. That's one I would do, obviously. If I just got a random message, be like, hey, AB wants to do something. All right. There's definitely, so I spoke to a college class last September from my alma mater. I went back to Slippery Rock to talk to a sports media class. And one of the students asked me, like, just like, give like 5 dream interviews. I don't know if AB would be like a dream interview, but it'd be one that everybody would watch. But no, Ben will always be the number one. And I hope to one day make that happen. Did Michael Vick last year, so that was pretty cool. Very happy that I was able to do that. Mike Vick's the best. If Dallas lets Dak go and they go with Trey Lance's pick go and get him next year, I mean, hey, I've been banging that drum, bud. They should. Assuming that Wilson and Fields both show like, okay, they're not the long-term future. But hell, even if like they have okay seasons, like, come on, let's be real here. Like if Russ goes for 19 touchdowns and 10 picks and averages, a little bit over 200 yards a game, let's say, and the Steelers are fine again, like if you can get Dak Prescott, you go out and you get Dak Prescott. Jarrett could try to get in touch with Ryan Clark to see if Brandon Aiyuk's camp would let him come on the show. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? No, look, I've been very thankful to be able to do what I do. And most to all of the guys that I've ever, done projects with, interviews with, have all been really cool. There's one who, like, at the beginning of it seemed like he was going to be like, oh, okay, he doesn't want to be here. But by the end of it, he was cool. I'm not going to say his name or anything because that would be rude. But yeah, most of all the guys that I've ever done anything with have been really awesome. Austin Eckler was the first guy I ever interviewed back in 2020. And he was awesome. So I always have a special place in my heart for Austin Eckler just because that was like my my NFL player interview V card that he took. So I'll always love Austin Eckler. Yeah, that's the dude. Aiyuk isn't going to the Steelers, folks. He's signing with the 49ers. Well, we shall see. We shall see. And again, I'd lean toward that as well. That I think he's probably going to just sign an extension with the 49ers. But not a 0% chance that he gets moved. I'll say that. But I think that that'll be a good place to cap it for today. And again, if you're not already subscribed, do that. That would be awesome. And then next week, more on the pump fake, more on black and gold breakdown, ton of NFL content to bring us into July. And then in less than a month, folks, training camp will be in. We are 33 days away from the Hall of Fame game. Basically a month away from football being played on television. Anybody else going to bet on the Hall of Fame game? Anybody else a true degenerate? Wouldn't that be fun? I did last year. I made money. Shout out Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Will I do it again this year? There's a strong possibility. So, appreciate you guys. Make sure you're subscribed. And yeah, next week, probably 2 episodes of the pump fake, depending on when we hammer out the details for this certain former player to hop on to talk about stuff that isn't the NFC South. But we'll be doing an NFC South preview to round up the division previews. And then, yeah, more stuff in the black and gold breakdown. Be back at least 3 days next week. And then once we get into like training camp, we'll start ramping up things every day again because there'll be a lot to talk about during camp. So make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. Unless something happens tomorrow, then I'll be back to talk about it. Let's hope that something big does happen. But if not, have a great weekend. Take care of one another. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys next week. Good night.